How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and I've got a fun one for you today. Where should I live in Denver if I'm single? I'm here to tell you, starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everett, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or living around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So if this is your first time hitting up the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification icon as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And listen, as much as I love trying to be a little creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of Denver's most talented realtors. And we're helping people move, whether it's buying or renting here, all the time. So the number and email popping up on your screen, know that if I can be a resource, I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answering your texts, answering your emails, there when and if you need me. Now that we have that fun-filled stuff out of the way, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, where should I live in Denver if I'm single? All right, so some of you, especially if this is not your first time visiting the channel, may have seen a video that I made towards the tail end of last year on a similar subject, where to live if you're single in Denver. But after talking to a lot of colleagues, clients, people that I've helped move here, I got some feedback and I wanted to adjust that list. Not because some of the neighborhoods I mentioned weren't worth exploring, but just because other neighborhoods offered something specific that especially client feedback just seemed to be very high on. So having said that, the first neighborhood we're going to talk about, kind of a combination of two, is Capitol Hill and North Capitol Hill, or as we refer to it here in Denver as Cap Hill and Uptown. Basically separated only by Colfax Avenue. So they're right next to each other. Obviously very close to the Capitol. They're on the east side of town, right on the edge of downtown. And both neighborhoods give you that downtown vibe. So you have a lot of walkability. You have places along Colfax, along Broadway, and over in Uptown, you have 17th Avenue and 19th Avenue, which are two of the best walkable streets, just with restaurants, bars, coffee shops, things of that nature that you're going to find. And you also have that city vibe of getting over to Cheeseman Park, which is just to the east of Cap Hill, a little southeast from North Cap Hill. You're also, as I mentioned, obviously near the Capitol building. You're near Capitol Hill Park. A lot of things to do around there. When it comes to living, you have the options all over the place. You have some detached homes, you've got townhomes, you've got apartments. A lot of the homes there, especially in Cap Hill, are these old mansions that were built in the early 1900s. There was a lot of money being poured into the city at that point. There was a run on silver at the time. And so these huge mansions were built. A lot of these mansions, I say huge, at the time they were huge. Now to us, they're just some very nice sized houses. But at some point, a lot of those houses started getting chopped into 3-4 bedroom apartments. So as you're driving by them, that's where a lot of people are living. A lot of rentals, I should say, in Cap Hill, North Cap Hill. That's what you're gonna see Uptown. That's what you're gonna see in those areas. But one of the most popular places for young professionals, for singles living in Denver, that got the highest ratings, hence it's number one on my list. And I mentioned it briefly, but I gotta tell you, 19th Avenue, specifically 19th Avenue in Uptown, is one of the coolest, just scenic walkabouts with these great bars. They got a speakeasy inside an ice cream shop. It's called Frozen Matters is the ice cream shop. There's a little speakeasy inside of it. Some of my favorite coffee shops. Just the way the buildings there are, the apartments, the office buildings, everything, great vibe to it. Definitely two neighborhoods you're gonna wanna check out. And again, that's why they're number one on this list. Number two on our list, and something that got very high ratings from clients that have moved there, is 5 Points, as we've always referred to it in Denver, or RiNo, aka River North. That's kind of the more modern term. So RiNo sits on the northeast side of town, borders along the South Platte River. You see a lot of new development in RiNo, a lot of new construction, a lot of new townhomes, big apartments. Kind of the all amenity encompassing apartments where you've got, pools and yoga mats and all that fun-filled stuff that people want. And RiNo has also one of the better night scenes that you're going to see. There along Larimer, you've got a great strip of restaurants and bars, places that people want to hang out in, and there's a lot to do over there. The Source, one of the more popular places you're going to see. That's one of those joints you may have in your neighborhood now, where you walk in and there's coffee shops and restaurants and different places within it. It also has a farmer's market, has a great bakery, a South American bakery that my wife would want me to shout out because they're delicious. So a lot to do in RiNo. And RiNo also has a big art district that's very important to that community there. They do a lot of festivals surrounded by that. There's oftentimes throughout the year where they'll block off roads and they'll do different exhibits for art. So if you're into that stuff, definitely a place you're gonna wanna check out. And so in talking to people that I had helped move here, people who had selected to live in RiNo, 5 Points, whatever you want to call it, it got kind of the highest ranking for just the enjoyment of living there. The different places to go, dog parks, kind of that balance of city and fun things to do. And then you're not too far, you're just right across South Platte River from jumping up into parts of the Highlands and then getting to the west side of town into the mountains if you want to. So a little bit of both worlds blended together in the best way. The way I said that made perfect sense in my mind. If it didn't make sense when it actually came out of my mouth, my apologies. Third on our list, and I kind of cheated here a little bit because I wanted to make sure that I got all three of these neighborhoods, but that is the Highlands, Sloans Lake, and Edgewater. Now, geographically speaking, they kind of stretch. They stretch west of Denver, but I think that those three neighborhoods, and I lived in Sloans Lake for 10 years, so I have some expertise in this matter, those neighborhoods tend to blend together. If you live in one, you're close enough to where you're going to dabble in all the others. Now, the Highlands, for what it's worth, is I would say probably my favorite neighborhood in all of Denver, my favorite neighborhoods. It's a pretty sizable area. The Highlands has the perfect suburban urban vibe, in my opinion. It's filled with all types of different houses. You've got your detached homes again, you've got your townhomes, you've got your apartments, but you get a city feel as far as having all the walkability, shops, coffee shops, some great restaurants. Some of the best restaurants you're gonna find in Denver are in the Highlands. But then you still have a suburban vibe to it. You still have parks, you still have a lot of green trees, mature trees, decent sized lots in some of the houses. Obviously it gets a little tight in certain areas, but the Highlands is a big mixing area too. I mean, you have people coming from all over town to get to that area, whether they live there or they're visiting. Why do I include Sloans Lake and Edgewater, which borders Sloans Lake, to it is again that proximity. So Sloans Lake is more of a livable area as far as space. Doesn't have quite the walkability that the Highlands has. Obviously you have the lake there, Sloans Lake. It's about 2.5 miles around, very close to where the Broncos Stadium is. So you're just moving west from the city again. If like due west out of the city, you're gonna run into Sloans Lake. Sloans Lake has its restaurants, has its bars, but unless you're living in a certain area, chances are you're gonna have to hop in your car and drive to them. Now Edgewater is just a little farther west. So Sheridan is on the west side of Sloans Lake. I think about this for a second. Is on the west side of Sloans Lake, and Edgewater is just on the other side of Sheridan. And Edgewater is a very small community. I mean, it's basically 8 blocks by 8 blocks, pretty small. But Edgewater has a great strip of places up 25th Avenue, right from Sloans Lake, including Recess Brewery, which saved me during COVID, during quarantine. They deliver beer to my front door. Bless you, Joyride. But a great strip of bars, some nice restaurants. Edgewater Inn, probably the only place you're gonna find decent pizza in Denver. I mean, not probably, there are others, but it's among the best. But Edgewater is also, an old school neighborhood where you're seeing, you have some old construction, you have some houses that have been around forever, but you also see a nice mix of some new build, some new construction. You'll see that throughout Sloans Lake as well, and admittedly, you'll see it in the Highlands. So between those three neighborhoods, what I want to emphasize as I babble all over the place is that you don't have to pick one to enjoy all three. The Highlands tends to have the highest price point, whether you're talking about buying or renting a place. Sloans Lake is going to be pretty close. Edgewater affords a little affordability. I can cheat here and mention Wheat Ridge. That's another neighborhood in that area that you might want to explore for that affordability sake. But if you're in any of those regions, it's going to be pretty easy for you to get to the others. When I lived in Sloans Lake, it was routine. We were always in the Highlands because it was a 10-minute drive to get over there or a 10-minute Uber ride. Super easy. Number 4 on the list is the Denver Tech Center, aka DTC. So the Tech Center is due south from downtown Denver on I-25, our major north-south highway. Without traffic, you are 15-20 minutes tops from downtown. With traffic, let's say anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. Traffic can get a little standstill in Denver, not as bad as you'll see in some of the biggest of cities, but it gets a little worse. So what does the Tech Center have to offer? Well, as you can hear, Denver Tech Center, a lot of employment opportunities, a lot of businesses operate from there. You're gonna see a lot of office buildings, a lot of different corporations operate out of that area. But it's also a hot spot for some really great apartments, townhomes. There's some detached homes, and obviously you have some suburbs that surround it, so you have options. But the Tech Center also offers some of the best restaurants you're gonna find in Denver, especially steakhouses. If you like to beat up steakhouses, chances are you're gonna end up in DTC quite a bit. It's got a great area called the Landmark, filled with restaurants, a coffee shop, great pizza place, a Comedy Works, which is a local comedy stand, comedy venue, I should say. So DTC is one of the more popular areas for people living, especially if you have to commute to an office. Again, a lot of offices are located in that area. People enjoy that. And they've also done a really good job, in my opinion, down in DTC. I worked down there for several years, of sprinkling in, parks and different places to get outside and enjoy yourself. Very well thought out. The Tech Center is also surrounded by a town called Centennial, which offers some of the better neighborhoods, some of the best neighborhoods that you're going to find. So you've got a little mix. You could live in parts of Centennial and be seconds from DTC. The Tech Center gets extremely high ratings from clients I've had move here, especially those who have to commute and do work within the Tech Center. They like being there because they say it's all encompassing. You can go to work, you can enjoy your evenings, you can enjoy an afternoon out, you have parks and whatnot, and it's not too difficult from DTC to get to the mountains if you want to head that way. Even though you're technically on the east side of I-25, you're on the east side by about that much. So super easy to get over to the mountains. And neighborhood number 5 in today's video is Platt Park. Now, I'm almost embarrassed by the fact that I didn't include Platt Park the first time I made this type of video. It's just a neighborhood that I didn't think about at the time and I hadn't spent enough time in. But Platt Park is a very popular area in Denver. So just south of I-25, where I-25 kind of curves a little bit, doesn't run just straight north and south, curves a little bit to the east. So just below, south of I-25, and between Broadway and Downing is Platt Park. Just great neighborhood after great neighborhood, great block after great block. First and foremost, we have to mention 2 of the best streets involved in Platt Park, and that is South Broadway and Pearl Street. South Broadway becoming more and more popular, a lot of shops, a lot of restaurants, a lot of coffee shops. It's always been a busy road, no question, but a lot of new spots being opened up. You got to check out Adelita's, one of my favorite Mexican joints. And then you have Pearl Street, and I'm just going to show you a video of Pearl Street because it's an absolute goldmine. Pearl Street is one of the most walkable streets you're gonna find in all of Denver. There's 2 Pearl Streets that come to mind, one in Boulder and one in Platt Park, both spectacular. But all your coffee shops, all your restaurants, all your bars, just great places to visit, and these nice houses in different neighborhoods sprinkled in. Platt Park also has every variety of home you could think of. They have houses that have been around forever. They have brand new, gorgeous new builds. They've got apartments, they've got townhomes. Their cost levels can vary, so you have a lot of options there. Just overall, one of the best neighborhoods you're gonna find. So when I talk to clients who moved to Platt Park, the feedback I get is that they knew very early on that Platt Park was going to be the neighborhood they wanted to be in. It had access to, again, Pearl Street, to Broadway. There's a couple great parks, obviously Platt Park being one of them, in the neighborhood that they really enjoyed. They liked that they have a lot of amenities, those different living options that they enjoy at, depending on your scenario, an affordable cost when you're thinking about Denver in general. And they also like the fact that you're not too far from neighborhoods like Wash Park, Washington Park, which is an extremely popular area. I would have included it in this list, but Wash Park tends to be one of the most expensive areas to live in Denver, which can be a Debbie Downer when you're moving somewhere by yourself. But Platt Park gives you kind of that best of both worlds. You've got a great location, great amenities, housing options out the wazoo. And if you're single and trying to get out and about, there's plenty of things for you to do. You don't have to go very far if you don't want to. So listen, as we consider these 5 neighborhoods, these 5 areas that I've discussed, because some of them were more than just one neighborhood, the big thing was this: good location, things to do where you can get out and about, meet new people, be indoors, outdoors, get out and about, and obviously some affordability options there. We want to make sure you're also in a location where if you're into city living, you can get there, and if you're into the mountains, you can also get there pretty easy. You got a nice mix. I do want to very briefly touch on 2 neighborhoods that were removed from the list based on my first video, and that was Lower Downtown Denver and Cherry Creek. These are very popular areas for people to live. No question that if you're moving to Denver, you're still going to want to take a peek. If you like city living, you're still going to want to take a peek at Lodo, and you're still going to take a peek at Cherry Creek. The reason they were removed, or dropped, I should say, in rankings from this list is very straightforward. One, Cherry Creek, when it came to client and colleague and friend feedback, Cherry Creek goes quiet pretty early. It goes dark around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Not a lot of traffic, not a lot of places open, not a lot of people walking around the street. It's just a quiet neighborhood when it comes to night. So during the day, one of the busiest neighborhoods you're gonna find, with all the shopping you can imagine, all the restaurants, all the coffee shops. But like I said, it goes quiet early. Single people tended to think that it wasn't necessarily the best thing for them. They prefer to be in a neighborhood that offered them the ability to do more later into the evening if they wanted to. Having said that, the other neighborhood removed was Lodo or Lower Downtown. Couple reasons for that, and I would not be surprised if Lodo comes back and increases in our rankings. But Lodo, if you're gonna live in Lower Downtown Denver, odds are you are going to be in an apartment or a condo. There's not a lot of townhomes, and you're certainly not finding any detached homes. So your living options pretty restricted in that area. And be perfectly honest with you, Lower Downtown and Downtown for that matter has dealt with a bit of a homeless situation, some crime, some vagrancy in Denver. Now, I think the city is actually starting to really get on top of this. They let it go farther than they should have. I think they are addressing it now. But the feedback I got from clients and colleagues was Lodo's worth looking at. It's a great place to go visit. It's a great place to go out in. But as far as living there, it just didn't rank as high. Key thing here, it didn't rank as high as the other neighborhoods I mentioned. Still worth kicking the tires on though, if you want to be in the heart of the city. But listen, that's just a handful of areas that could be good for you or anyone single moving to Denver or around Denver. And if you'd like to hear about all of them, or maybe even discuss some of these, talk about why Edgewater Inn has such good pizza and Joy Red has delicious beer, let's do it. That number and email popping up on your screen. I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everett. That was Where Should I Live in Denver If I'm Single. Until I see you next time, peace.